Hi, I'm Carol Burton and I wrote Burton Reading. I am going to do a little workshop today on helpful teaching tips. I taught for 25 years. I was a reading specialist for 14. And by the time I had taken my reading recovery training and got into really working with struggling kids, I had a sign that I put above my desk at work. And it was KISS. It made keep it simple, stupid. And I put that up there for me to look at all the time. I had to realize that I needed to say things to these children in a simple way, not some convoluted high educational speaking, but in a simple way that they could understand the things I was talking about, and it worked. I also learned early on in my training that if I was going to take a workshop or a class about something, it's fine to study all the ins and outs of that, but I had to find a way that when I walked out of that class or that session, I could capsulize what I learned and make it easy for me to remember to do it and apply it. And I kind of got in the habit of using pictures. To me, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And it was easy for me to, once I did that, to just glance at these pictures. I pasted them all over my bulletin board behind my desk, and I could help keep reminding myself of these very important things. I would like to share some of those with you. I don't, a lot of times in my training in Burton Reading, I give you the pictures. I can't do that here, although if there's a picture showing on the screen, then my son learned how to do it and stuck it in there. I don't know. But anyway, the first picture I want you to look at or to think about is a little toddler. Now, I have 18 grandchildren. I've got another one on the way. Most of them are 11 and under, so I have always, at all times, at least one toddler. And right now, my toddler is Aiden. Aiden's a young little toddler. He's just starting to walk. Now, but I can remember every one of those kids, and I remember my own children and the thrill it was to watch them walk. Now, I had 4 children myself. I've got 18 grandchildren. Did they all start to learn to walk at the same time? Absolutely not. They were all different. Some learned as early as 9 months. Some were 14 months. Didn't matter. They all learned how to walk. They all walk really fine now. When they took the first step, I was thrilled. Was I upset because they didn't do it quite correctly? No, I was just thrilled. When they took 2 steps, I was thrilled. They could take 3 or 4, it was wonderful. If tomorrow they fell down and I had to help them back up, I didn't get bothered by that. I just thrilled at all of them. I want you to think about your reader, your beginning reader, as a toddler reader. So, are they going to do everything correctly at first? Absolutely not. Are they going to make mistakes? Of course. But what you need to remember is they're just a toddler. If they make a mistake, you help them get back on the horse here and try it again. You encourage them. You're thrilled with what they are doing correctly. You don't go to bed at night worrying about it. You don't compare them to other kids. No, you let them go at their pace, learn their way, and delight in every step. That word delight is so important. One of the things over the many years that I have worked with reading, homeschooling people in reading, well, in anything, but I'm talking about reading. One of the things I've noticed is how no matter where the child is, the parent's always feeling like they've got to get better. We got to keep pushing them on and being frustrated with what they got wrong today. But what I love about reading and what I want you to understand and love about reading is that it's the only subject I know that every week you can look back and think, they're doing this now, they didn't do it then. There's always new improvements because they just learn so quickly. And what we need to do is think about them being a toddler and just delight in these things they can do. Of course, we're going to correct them and we're going to teach them, but don't lose the delight in what they're doing and in the progress they've made. It's a wonderful adventure. It's as fun as when they learn to walk and talk, if we let it be. And if we let it be a delight, they're going to enjoy it. So think about your reader as a toddler reader. The second picture I want you to picture is a turtle. Now, you all know the story of the tortoise and the hare. The turtle won the race because he made slow, consistent progress. He wasn't spurting ahead and then taking time off and spurting ahead. That's what the rabbit did. And in reading, beginning reading, you must think about it being like a turtle. I'm going to slowly, consistently teach. I'm not going to be worried about, how long it's taking or how. We're just going to keep at it. As I wrote Burton Curriculum, what I've told my people is this. Your job is to encourage and follow the lesson plan. My job is to make each unit just a little bit the right step forward. That's my job. And I think I've done a good job with it. So don't worry about that. You just think about consistently doing the lesson. Now, that may seem simple, but let me tell you something. I don't want to be hard on homeschooling families, but I have run into a lot of mamas that on beginning reading, they don't see the importance of it. And so they may do a lesson today and then, don't get to it tomorrow, and then maybe Thursday and, and we're going to take a couple weeks off and, I did half a lesson today, I'll, skip this part. If there's ever a time that you consistently make sure that there's some reading instruction going on, that those lessons get done and you don't leave out anything and you do it right. If there's ever a time to do that, it's at their beginning reading time. Once they're reading, it doesn't matter. If you've got a third grader or second grader who's reading well and well on their way, if you decide, we're only going to do math today, a lot of math today, and next week we'll do science, you can do a lot of that flexibility. That's what's wonderful about homeschool. But don't do that in the beginning reading stage because it takes time for them to get all this stuff learned and automatic. And the way to do it isn't in a big gulp and then a lot of nothing and then another big gulp. They've got to have a little bit at a time and consistent. Research clearly shows that if you give 5 lessons a week to a child, they will make far more progress than if you're doing just 4 or 3 because they lose things if there's very many days between lessons. That's why I've had a lot of people who start my program in the middle of the year. Now, the reason they do that a lot of times is either the child has started on one curriculum and it's not working and they switch, or a lot of times the child turns 4 or turns 5 in the middle of the year and they want to start then, so they're starting then. But when you get to the summer, don't take a full 3 months off right then because you'll lose too much. Keep it going. You might ease off a little bit, but keep it going. You only have to do this for about a year, and then they're flying, maybe even less. But in the beginning, it's critical to give them that time. There is no more important subject to teach than beginning reading, because reading is the basis of every other academic thing they're going to do. And the beginning, if you do it right, ensures that they won't struggle. So that beginning piece is critical. And I just beg you to think about the turtle. When you're ready to start teaching them to read, then stick with it. Stick with it. Another picture that I want you to look at or think about is a picture of a jigsaw puzzle. Reading is like putting together a puzzle. And I like to tell the story of my grandchildren. I have lots of jigsaw puzzles. Now, you have to understand I'm a little bit of I don't know even the name of it, but I get a little carried away about some things. And so several years ago when I had my grandchildren were just starting to get to the point they liked jigsaw puzzles, there were several that loved them. So, of course, I had to order about 150 of them. And I've got all these jigsaw puzzles down there, and we put them together. Sometimes it's 100 and 200 and 500 pieces. And I put them together with different kids, and sometimes there's 3 or 4 of us working and so forth. But what I have absolutely learned is that no two people put a jigsaw puzzle together the same way. Now, of course, in my opinion, humble opinion, you have to start by turning all the pieces over. But some of my grandchildren cheat, and by the time I've got them all turned over, they've got 3 of the pictures made. I think you should put the edge pieces together first, but some of them don't. And I always love to tell the story about my daughter-in-law, Debbie. She's a very smart gal. She's a lawyer. And when she puts a jigsaw puzzle together, she just looks at the picture, and then she just picks one piece out of the box at a time and sort of lays it where she thinks it's going to go. And pretty soon the puzzle's put together. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't put puzzles together much with her because I can't even begin to compete with that. But every person puts them together in a different way. As a matter of fact, I've gotten to where I sort of, I've put the puzzles together, and I sort of take the picture and put it into pieces, like 4 equal pieces, and then I put the different corners into different bags. So when I put them together with my grandchildren, I can say, you put this section together and you put this, because everybody does it different. That's true of reading. And what we need to understand is that if you're going to make sure that your child's a good reader, what you need to do is lay all the pieces out for them. Phonics, sight words, readings, all the reading strategies, writing, all of the things. You lay them all out, and then you begin to help them make connections. And they will make connections, each one differently. They will make connections at a different speed. My beginning reading program has units of 5 lessons, and then there's an evaluation at the end. And if you're not ready to go on, you take a little more time, because it's important never to get ahead of your child. But some children do 5 lessons, they just move right along. Some children need 6 or 7 lessons. I've known a child who maybe needs 10 days here before they're ready to go on. It doesn't make any difference, but they need to put it together in their time and in their way, and you're there to help make those connections. And that's how you have to look at reading. Sometimes your older child learned this way, and then another one. They're all going to be different. So don't try to put them into a box. Just think about it. You got to get all those pieces out there. But I will stop here and say, you want to make sure that all the pieces are out there. Don't just put the phonics pieces out there and expect them all to put the puzzle together, because they won't. Some will. Some will put the puzzle together if you didn't put any pieces out there at all. Don't ask me how. Some kids will, but not all. But phonics only won't get you there. You got to put all the pieces out. And then I want you to think of the picture of a piece of Swiss cheese. And this is what I used to call my struggling readers. They're Swiss cheese kids. And the reason is because at the beginning, all those pieces weren't put out, and they missed some of those pieces. Sometimes it was because they moved around and missed it in their school. Sometimes it was because they were out sick, or their parents were sick and they weren't paying attention. Sometimes, there could be a lot of reasons. Sometimes the curriculum didn't give them all the pieces. But if they're missing those pieces, they're going to end up to be a struggling reader with holes in their education. Then you have to go back and fix it. And that's what my Burton Reading Solutions is, a restart to fill those holes. And then I want you to think about a picture of a juggler. Now, when my kids were smaller, we went to Florida one year, and while we were there, we went to Circus World, which was where the circus spent the winter, I guess. I don't know, off season. And we went to this program they were having in this grandstands, and this clown was going to teach some people how to juggle and ask for volunteers. Now, you'd have to know my husband, but of course he was up there. Here's Don. He's going to learn how to juggle. So they give him 2 balls, and he's no problem. Then they gave him 3 balls, and he's doing pretty well. They gave him 4 balls, and he was concentrating pretty hard, but he was keeping them up there. And as I recall, I think he even did 5. But eventually, they gave him a new one, and he dropped some. That's the way it is with your child. Now, I could go into a lot of brain research and memory and all that stuff. But what I'm doing is boiling this down into a picture of how this works. Your child, if you think about those balls are all things they have to think about. So let's say, for example, this child learns that, okay, a bee looks like this. A bee is a bat and a ball. And this is the word the. That's what they're working on. And I got to touch 1 to 1. Those are the things they're thinking about. If you give them one more than they can really handle, they'll drop something. Now, brain research would tell you that the difference in children is some children can only juggle 2 at a time. Some can juggle 4. Some can juggle a whole bunch. And that depends on the child. But there always comes a time that if they get overloaded with things they're having to think about, they'll drop it. One of the most helpful teaching tips I can give you is to understand that concept. If they don't need to think about it anymore and it becomes automatic, it's like they stick it in their pocket. And once it's automatic, it's automatic. But you got to be watching that juggling. When they drop something, that means they've made a mistake. We have a choice. We can either get really upset and frustrated because you've known that, you said that, I know you know. I don't know. I'm pounding on the table. My son's going to be mad because it makes a noise in the mic. Oh dear. I don't know how many parents will come in and will do something and the child doesn't know something, but you knew that at home. I know you know that. No, he dropped it right now. So what does that tell you? It's not on automatic. That's what it tells you. You don't have to have a hissy fit and you don't have to have your blood pressure go up. If you can see that when they drop it, jot that down. They still don't have that on automatic. That gives you some information of what's going on up here. Errors are very, very, very important in telling you what the child still needs to learn, or what the child misunderstands, or whatever. It gives you a window into that. Do not let errors get you upset. See, now, of course, we'd love it if there's never an error, and that's wonderful. That's our goal, but it isn't going to happen for a long time. So you've got to remember that if they drop that ball, if they do this wrong today, that means it's not on automatic. Now, I'm going to give you, this will be another few weeks, but eventually, hopefully soon, one of the workshops I'm going to put on is error analysis to help you understand when they do this, what's that really saying? But that juggler helps you to remember that they can only think about so many things. And if they drop something, then that helps me to know I've got to teach that again, because that's not automatic. How do you know if it is on automatic? They'll never drop it. But you have to watch for a long time. In reading about the first 2 years or so.